Welcome back, Life Science. Today I'm going to cover Section 2, Classifying Organisms. I'm going to break this section up into a few different parts here, probably 3 parts. And so today I'm really going to focus in on this first learning objective. What methods are used to classify living things into groups? So remember with our notes, we hit pause and then we take the notes and then we resume the Edpuzzle. So classifying living things, pause. We start with Aristotle. Okay, Aristotle was a philosopher in ancient history, and he placed organisms into 2 groups. You were either a plant or you're an animal. So if you were a plant, you could be subdivided further down into a tree, a shrub, or an herb. If you were an animal, you could be classified as the presence of red blood or not, the environment that you lived in, as well as your size. Now, great start, but not the best grouping mechanisms because some organisms can cross over. So it became kind of muddy. Okay, so Carolus Linnaeus was a Swedish botanist, not a botanist. Oh, I guess he was, but he was really into animals and plants, and he started to classify species into kingdoms. So I want to talk about the levels of organization. These big 3 up here are domains: bacteria, archaea, eukarya. Now, we mentioned bacteria briefly as unicellular organisms, so their kingdom is actually called bacteria. And their cell type is very unique compared to eukarya, and that they do not have a nucleus. So the number of cells that they have is just 1, una. Okay? Now, archaea, and we'll talk more about these guys later on this semester, they belong to the kingdom archaea. And again, their cell type very similar to bacteria in that they don't have a nucleus, but yeah, they're also unicellular. For the sake of this class, we will say they are unicellular. Now, eukarya, okay, these are my multicellular organisms. So these 2 over here were unicellular, made of 1 cell. Eukarya is multicellular. And you can subdivide eukarya into 4 kingdoms: protist or protista, fungi, plantae, and animal or animalia. So when we organize animals, we can classify them into 6 kingdoms total, right? Now the cell type, all eukarya or eukaryotes, all eukarya have a nucleus. And I know we really don't know what a nucleus is yet, but it just means that they have an organelle or a structure that holds their DNA, their genetic material. The cell type, multicellular, 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 multicellular. Okay, so kind of see the difference between bacteria, archaea, and eukarya with this table. All right, new slide, hit pause. Okay, now we can classify organisms into 7 levels. So I talked about the 3 domains. Really, domain should be number 1. I mean, if I wanted to be really, really precise, I would put a domain up here, but we're just going to start with kingdom. So if I go back to the previous slide, here are my 6 kingdoms, okay? And then we're just going to go down from there. So when we classify organisms, we can classify them into 7 levels: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. These levels of classification almost act like a funnel. Okay, here's my really bad funnel drawn with my mouse pad. That means if you have like all these animals, these are squiggly lines means animals, okay? You group them in here and you can classify them, and eventually you're just going to get 1 organism at the very end, the organism that you want to look at or examine. So one way to help you remember the 7 levels of organization in order is to use a mnemonic device. So I have created one. King Philip came over for grape soda. So I drew a picture to maybe, help you remember. Here's King Philip. He's coming over with some grape soda. Kingdom, K, phylum, P, class, C, order, O, F, family, G, genus, S, species. King Philip came over for grape soda. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You're going to need to know these in order for a test at the end of this chapter. So here's some examples of how we use this when we classify organisms. Let's say I got a bunch of random animals, okay? And I want to classify the grizzly bear. So here's my kingdom Animalia. These are all animals. I move down to phylum. Chordata means does it have a backbone? Now you notice which organisms were eliminated, right? Insect was eliminated and just looks like insect. And then we're going to move it down. So we're going to narrow our search, if you will, even smaller. All right, so class means is it a mammal or not? Or is it a reptile? So we're looking at the grizzly bear, it's mammal. That means we're going to eliminate fish and snake and bird. Okay, so now we're left with these organisms. Moving on to the next level of organization, order. So in this case, grizzly bear is a carnivore, so we call it carnivoria, and we eliminate the pig, which I don't know if I entirely agree with because, pigs can pretty much eat anything, but I digress. We'll just keep moving on. Moving on to family, okay? Ursidae means bear. So dogs are not bears. Dogs get eliminated into this next level. Genus Ursus, I don't know what Ursus means, but pandas don't fit the bill, so they get eliminated. And now I'm left with black bear and grizzly bear, and the species name is Horribles. So that means black bear is out because black bear has a different species name. Yes, so black bears, their species name is, I think, Americanus, if I'm not mistaken. But you can kind of see how we funnel it down and we narrow our search, okay? So I'm going to walk you through an example here. So here I got a bunch of animals, and I want to look at a dog, okay? So kingdom Animalia, they are all animals. If I were to ask you what domain do these animals belong in, what would you say? Well, they're not bacteria. They're not archaea. These organisms are all multicellular, so they must be eukarya. So if I wanted to be precise, the domain would be eukarya, not Durcaria. Eukarya. And I can't type. Okay. Anyway, so kingdom Animalia. Phylum Chordata. That means does it have a backbone? So fish, yes. Dog, yes. Fox, yes. Worm, no. Otter, big bad wolf, and an elephant. All right, mammals. Okay, fish gets eliminated. Whoops. So I got dog, fox, otter has a backbone, wolf has a backbone, the elephant has a backbone. Order Carnivoria. Okay, so dogs are carnivores, foxes are carnivores, sea otters are carnivores, wolves are carnivores, but elephants are not. Family Canidae. Okay, dogs belong to that. Foxes, believe it or not, they do. I'm left with a sea otter, but sea otters are not the family Canidae. And the wolf, family Canidae. Genus Canis, that means I just have now my dog and the wolf. Foxes do not belong to that genus or that grouping. And then species familiaris, that is your dog. Canis familiaris. Okay. What is the wolf? The wolf's species name is Lupus. Okay. So you can kind of see how I started with a bunch of animals and I narrowed it down to just the one. So you do have an assignment, and that assignment is you need to come up with your own mnemonic device. Okay. So KPCOFGS, you need to create a sentence, kind of like my King Philip came over for grape soda, a sentence that makes sense and that you can draw. That is your assignment for today.